Derek Roddy, welcome to the Drum Mechanics Podcast. In case we haven't met, my name is Brandon Green. I specialize in biomechanics, and I love interviewing professional drummers I've looked up to for a long time and learning about their secrets. Derek Roddy is someone that I've looked up to for a long time. I was part of his form in the very early days about 20 years ago. But truthfully, Derek has always shared a lot of exercises in his education platforms, and I thought this podcast was going to be geared much more toward the technical side of drumming. But truthfully, as I started leading the questions that direction, you're going to hear from Derek. They had some very organic approaches to how he improved his speed and his performance and musicality on the drum set, which really took me by surprise. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And just quickly, if you're someone who is really serious about getting stronger behind the drum set, beside practicing on the drums and doing what Derek suggests, I'd encourage you to check out the Drum Forever fitness program. It's a fitness program I've created every month for drummers. It's extremely affordable, and you can try 14 days for free. But without further ado, here's Derek. Everyone, welcome to the Drum Mechanics Podcast. Today, I have Derek. Derek Roddy, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm feeling good. How are you? Everything good?
Everything is good, man. I am really excited to talk to you because, truthfully, I was a big fan of yours for a long time. And then I have seen this resurgence of Derek with the Minel Cymbals video lately and more posting from you. And it's like there's a lot more of you out now. I'm just super excited to see you doing a lot more stuff.
Hey, thanks. That's cool. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I'm not much of a social media guy. I'm not much of an internet person anyway. Back in the day, I had my own website and had a forum that had, a lot of members at the time. And, we had a lot of fun there. But once Facebook came about and, some of the other Instagram and TikTok especially, people just got away from the websites altogether. They weren't even coming. I fought it for many years. I didn't really want to go that route because I believe in the importance of, establishing a brand, so to speak, and kind of sticking with that and not lumping yourself all in one place with everybody else, So for years, I didn't really do a whole lot. But I did, like on my websites, I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I was streaming live with Serpent's Rise, streaming live with Isotropy. I mean, there's tons of Isotropy videos up on our website. So I have been doing a lot. I've just been keeping it away from social media.
Completely understand. Honestly, it is. No, it's an evil thing. So I completely understand.
It's funny. I can't even get, 100 subscribers like through Facebook and Instagram on any of my band pages, but yet I've sold 150,000 plus copies of Serpent's Rise material, over the years through my websites.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like people look at me like I'm crazy. It was like, but dude, I live in the real world. I'm not trying to be on a screen my entire life. Real life is already a screen if nobody's figured that out. You know what I mean? So it's like it's bad enough to be in a secondary one. I don't know, man. So I kind of just stick to the bigger screen,
Completely understand. Well, there's two kind of things that I'm really excited to kind of like just connect us a little bit more. One, so back in the day when I was quite young, Pearl Drummers Forum and your forum were two very popular spaces, right? Pearl Drummers Forum, everyone that played Pearl drums, I shouldn't say played. Pearl drum was just like a hangout place. And then anyone that wanted to push speed and work on their body, you had some very serious contributors on your website along with yourself talking about double bass techniques and strategies. It was quite a place.
Everybody was there. I mean, all of the common names now were novice drummer, beginning, intermediate drummers on that forum. It's like it's kind of crazy to watch it. I love watching that happen, like seeing all these guys like pushing the limits and the boundaries and stuff. Is so cool.
Yeah, and then the second thing is, so I'm not sure if you know this, but so all the drum mechanic stuff I do is actually in my own gym. So everything up here, I got a 4,000 square foot gym downstairs where there's clients and trainers working right now. But one of the clients that came here was a fella named Robert Peterson, who I believe you know.
Oh, yeah.
So he came in and he was struggling with some stuff and we started working together. He goes, oh yeah, I play guitar. Have you heard of this guy named Derek Roddy? I'm like, yes. He goes, oh yeah, I'm in Serpent's Rise. We play together. I'm like, that's amazing. And so it was really quite awesome. We actually tried to write some songs and then he ended up moving, but it was, he's a great guy.
Oh man. We played together in high school. He was in the deboning method with me.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've known Rob like going back to, like ninth grade.
Very small world.
Yeah, long time. Yeah, we were playing a lot together for a minute. He just got so busy with work, but he was doing like traveling as a consultant, software and hardware consultant for companies and whatnot. And he ended up spending a lot of time down here in Florida. I got a gig close by, and so we were playing, and that's when we kind of got the idea to let's get like all the deboning method guys back from high school together and see if we can't get them down here. I even have video of that stuff up on my YouTube page. Like you can search all of that. I don't know if you've been to my YouTube page in a while, but a lot of this stuff is up there. So
I'll go back and check deboning now. Definitely check that. Well, Derek Toa, I would love to jump into
that
this.
Stuff was.
Oh, pardon me.
That was written in like. Yeah, no worries. That was written in like 96, 97, 98,
That's
or
amazing.
89. Sorry, 87, 88, 89. Sorry, when I was in high school. So yeah, like that's when that stuff was written. So we go back and listen to it now. It's kind of funny. So definitely check it out.
That's amazing. So, Derek, I'd love to jump into this because, I mean, you have definitely, as we're kind of establishing, been at the kind of forefront with your brand as talking about how to develop your body and have control with a lot of this more intense, faster-paced music. I mean, you're definitely known on a lot of the educational content you've done around double bass work and playing speed and getting stronger. There's one thing that you've talked about, and I'd love for you to maybe expand on it a bit more. Many young drummers who are chasing speed are chasing speed. They try to go as fast as they can. They're straining themselves. They're pushing themselves. And you've been a very strong proponent of not focusing on speed, but focusing on stamina and endurance. Maybe just expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of guys that will push themselves into twitching out faster tempos, and if you just go back to like slow it down 20 BPM wherever you're at, even 40 BPM, and do that for say 10 minutes. It's all about repetition, reps. You know what I mean? So like the speed will come because you eventually have to tell your body that this is what I'm asking you to do, right? So you have to play that. Let's just say 220, right? So let's just say like that's your top level, and you want to push past that. My suggestion would be, okay, set the click at 240, try to twitch it out, tell your body this is what I'm asking you to do, and then I would go back to 200 and play 200 for 10 minutes, right? Then go back to the 240. It'll be much easier. Instead of like trying to twitch out that 240 all the time and just forcing yourself to do it, if you just slow it down, it's a balance like everything in life. It's like if you're going to do this, then you have to go back and do this because this tells your body what to activate in order to make this happen. And this tells your body all about the spacing and the control. So unless you're doing both of those, you're really only getting one or the other. And everybody always says, like, oh, if you want to play fast, you got to start slow. Wrong. Because you're not using the same muscle groups. No amount of playing slow will ever, ever, ever help you play fast. Ever. If you want to play fast, you have to play fast. You have to tell your body, this is what I want you to do. And then you go back and do it slow for extended time periods so you train your body the endurance part of being able to play faster. Right? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, so how about if we go to more of like a novice step, because this is kind of a fun idea, and I completely agree with you, right? You play slow 100 BPM for 20, 30 minutes, where you're not developing any of the techniques that you need to actually be able to go to 20 or 200 or above. But let's say you have someone that's relatively green, right? They are intermediate player. They're trying to get into double bass. They want to play fast. They have the fundamentals down. If you were to kind of step out some strategies without giving away too many trade secrets per se, what kind of things would you recommend they do to start getting some organization with that speed and some control? Because it can be tough to get a control of that twitch mechanism.
It's very easy. Just play the songs that you want to play. And do them over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? I mean, that's the only way to do it. I don't know anybody doing what I do and playing these extreme tempos that did it practicing from their bedroom. They all did it by being in bands and being out on tour. Yeah. And that's the biggest difference. Or doing shows, not even like out on tour, but they all got there by being in a band, right? And that sometimes is what you need that you're not going to get from four walls. Like, so I think the biggest boundary of intermediate players trying to play this stuff, simply the fact that you're not playing with people, is inhibiting you by 50% easily.
Interesting.
So that's the first thing. Play with people, play with bands, write music, write your own music. It's okay to play other people's music as starting out or whatever, but the moment you start playing your own music, you'll automatically be playing the way that you want to play. Automatically. Right? So that takes a lot of pressure away, because all of these guys that they all grew up playing in bands, writing their own music. They weren't trying to sit in their bedroom trying to figure out a Slipknot song or a Morbid Angel song or a Hate Eternal song, Nile, whatever, They weren't doing that. None of these guys were doing that. There's not a player out there that got there by doing that. They all got there by being in bands and playing their own music, which I think is super important. That's probably 70% of it, in my personal opinion, of all of it.
Playing your own music?
Playing your own music and doing it with other people. Yep.
That's amazing. And a simple piece of advice, too, because it's fun.
Yeah. If you want to know how to get there the quickest, that's how you do it. Otherwise, you're just going to be chasing your tail in your bedroom, And then I've seen so many players go down that road. I've even had, like, students of mine and other players that I've known in the past that, were all bedroom guys, and then because they had videos in YouTube, they got a gig in a big band, and they got out there and realized within 3 days they can't do this gig. They could do it in the bedroom on pads, but when you add personalities and you add stage changes from night to night, you add 8-hour drives, no sleep, crappy hotel rooms, people's floors. When you add all of that stuff into it, you find out real quick that this is 10% of it, So that's why it's important to be in a band and play your own music and get out and do the shows, because all of the other stuff that drums doesn't teach you as a musician, that stuff does. You know what I mean? And like I said, like this part of it, the technique and the speed and all of that, that's 10% of living your dream as a musician. That's in the greater scheme of things, it's really nothing. Ask Ringo Starr.
Yeah, no, fair.
So, I mean, if I could say anything to younger musicians, play with other musicians. Write your own music, play with other musicians. Period. That's how you get there. And you'll get there super quick. Within a year, you'll be like playing stuff that you wouldn't even imagine that you'd be playing from your bedroom. Seriously.
With that being said, I mean, when you go on, first of all, the stuff that you have been playing with several of your bands is at the top level of human performance. It may be, close to the top for you, but it's pretty incredible what your body can do. And then when you add the element, as you've regarded, touring and traveling, sleep deprivation, potentially nutrition, you're not going to get the nutrition that you want, fatigue. I'm just wondering for you at those formative years, maybe even the last tours that you did you ever experience, I shouldn't say that, what levels of fatigue did you experience that modified your playing, and how did you get through the songs?
This is kind of something I wanted to talk about, and this is going to sound like wild. I don't ever remember becoming fatigued playing. And I know it sounds weird, but I never had to try to do any of this. I know people are like, seriously, I never had to try to do any of this. Now, obviously, you have to, like the endurance stuff, and I would push myself, but this is where that coming in to playing in a band and writing your own stuff, because that was my practice. I never practiced, ever. I didn't start practicing until I was in my 30s, and that was because at the time I didn't have people to play with. I was too busy playing. I wasn't practicing. I was playing. I was doing shows, having a good time with my friends, getting laid. I wasn't practicing. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But I did challenge myself, and this is where it comes back. Like when you start writing your own music, you kind of become your best coach, because like it's like building a snowball. Like you can start, with the in your hand, and you put it on the ground, you roll more snow into it, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Endurance is the same way, and gaining speed is the same thing. So like you may say to yourself, okay, this song, I can only play 8 bars at 200 or whatever, but the next song I write, okay, I'm going to try to do 16 bars at 200 or whatever. And then you go out and you play it live, and you're playing faster because your adrenaline is through the roof, right? Then you're training your body in that way. And then you come back and you write another song and like, oh, wow, 200 is really comfortable now. I can hold that out like, for 48 bars. And then you go out and play it, and then you're playing it live at 210, and then you come back, and then all of a sudden you're writing stuff at 230. That's just how it happens. It's how it happened for all of us, like trying to do this, even somebody like, Kevin from Benighted, as flawless as his technique and everything is, how many bands was that guy in? Like, he's a young dude, and he's already been in like 15 bands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you wonder, how did Kevin get to be the player? That's how. Because he was in all those bands. It's the same thing for all of those guys. Eugene, like, how many bands has Eugene toured with and played with over the last 5 years? 3 dozen? 2 dozen? Seriously, you're like, that's how I watch it happen. I watch somebody like James Payne from Cataclysm. He spent several months here in Florida in a band here, based out of here. And, he went from here to like to there, like very, very, very fast, right? Just being in the bands. He moved over from Italy. He was in a couple bands over there too, and he was already phenomenal when he got here. But once he started playing and getting out there, doing shows, writing his own music with other people, that's when he really started getting like, oh man, this guy's one of the top in the game. You know what I mean? So again, I can't stress the importance of it. So but for me, that was it. I never. The only thing that I would get fatigued with is, like I said, when you're on tour, nutrition, lack of sleep, playing too hard, like when you're excited. You know what I mean? But you just have to get really good at learning your body, and knowing like, okay, how am I going to balance all of this out? And for me, that always happened through my ear, as opposed through my limbs, as far as technique or anything, because my ears would automatically tell me I'm playing too loud, and then that would pull my technique back into shape, right? So I think getting over that kind of thing, just listening and knowing your body, and knowing your limits as a player as well. And sometimes, when I was talking about pushing yourself, right? When I was in Hate Eternal, I was never really the first song when you come out is, the first couple songs are always shaky. It's always rocky. And a lot of drummers will suggest in their bands, like, oh, let's play the easier song so I can warm up, and I'll play the harder stuff last. I wanted to come out playing King of All Kings, just right from the start. You know what I mean? 250, 3.5 minutes of double bass and blast beats,
Cool.
And there were nights where I thought to myself, a minute into the song, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this, right? So fatigue, right? Wasn't necessarily fatigue, but my body was telling me, you got maybe 30 seconds, dude. You need to figure something out, right? So my body was telling me, my brain was telling me, okay, something's got to change. And then that's kind of where I started learning technique, right? Because like a lot of the modern techniques, that are allowing for stamina and are allowing for, less stress on the body, it's also allowing for less sound, less projection, less vibe. You know what I mean? So it's like, what good is playing a million miles an hour if I can't hear you?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing, right? So that's something that I always very closely listen to my body, is to always play on the threshold of and maybe this is why I don't fatigue a lot, because I'm always playing on the threshold that if I push it just a little bit more, I'm going to fall apart.
Right.
Does that make sense? Sorry, I don't know if Did you hear that ding?
No ding.
Somebody
We're good.
messaged me. Okay, good. So I just want to get to the point where I'm not falling apart. That's where I'm never thinking to myself how can I do this more efficiently. I'm not thinking that. What I'm thinking is how can I project myself as much as possible? How can my volume be as loud as it possibly can and as consistent as it possibly can? And how can I do all of that right on the threshold of falling off the bull?
Mm-hmm.
Because that, to me, is what serves this music best. Right? Like some of my favorite players to listen to, like newer players that, I can't stand watching them play. I'd rather watch paint dry. Right? I mean, it's like, are you playing drums or like are you feeling anything in there? It's all about the technique and how efficient how I can like make it look like I'm doing nothing. But that's not really very metal to me.
Yeah.
So I think from my standpoint of always pushing myself to that level, like just to the point to where I can't do it, is very important for sound, for heart, for feeling, vibe, all of that stuff that I feel that's missing in a lot of the newer players, but especially when you sound replace all of it, and everybody just ends up sounding and they grit it. It sounds and feels the same. Like there's no individuality among these players recorded anymore, So I'm trying to go for something like completely opposite of that.
It's an interesting juxtaposition to try and have that connection between the technical or physical ability, because it is very physical, but at the same time having that feel and presence. I mean, even the way that you're communicating it, if we put aside what we're talking about the type of music, you have a very, at least to me, like almost like some of the jazz people I've talked to, like a very feel present approach to this thing, but you're doing it just in a different genre. It's just interesting to me. I applaud to you because I haven't talked to many people who are doing what you're doing that think of it in this way, probably as you're kind of alluding to with everyone sounding very similar and doing similar exercises.
Right. Yeah, and using the technique like the push pull thing. It's impressive and it's cool, and you can play really really fast. But you stand 5 feet away from these guys on the side of the stage, and I can't hear you over your cymbals.
Yeah.
That's an issue to me. That's not very metal, and it just basically comes down to personal taste, right? To me, it's not very metal. To somebody else, it may be the best thing since sliced bread. And that's cool. I'm just saying, for me personally, and what has allowed me to kind of take my playing in an area where, I mean, it's like never in a million years would I've ever thought this, but I can't listen to a player that's playing nowadays that I don't hear my influence in, right? And that's that's a very flattering thing, because like all of this stuff that I hear that guys are doing is like, I know where that came from, I'm like, and I ripped it off from guys too, but the difference was I took it from guys in other genres.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the whole left foot playing stuff and the multi-pedal and doing things, that all came from other genres of stuff, and we all take from our influences and build upon that, you know what I mean? But it's funny because anytime I hear a ding, 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 ding with the blast beat, I know exactly where that came from, because up until I recorded some of that stuff, you didn't hear that before,
Yeah.
And the funny thing about that is people, they think, I was being, like creative or something. It hadn't really nothing to do with that, because as the bands that I was playing with started to become more and more popular, playing really fast gets really hard when the members get further away from you, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm playing all of this really fast stuff, and like Eric and Jared were like 3 feet away from me, and we were right on top of each other. And it was good. And then all of a sudden we're on a 60-foot stage, and Eric is 30 feet away that way and Jared's 30 feet. So it just made sense to put that one in there just to keep us in time. And it really had nothing to do with me trying to be creative or anything. I just knew that ding, 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 ding was easier to follow than ding, 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 ding. I mean, so it just made sense to me. Let me help my bandmates out. Let me try to make my band sound as good as we can, instead of, that's another thing too, not being so absorbed into yourself that you're not listening to everybody else. But that was always very important. And again, that's something you don't learn from four walls.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, I mean, coming from a sports performance background, I mean, I'm interested. It seems to be in the social media landscape that I've been seeing, there's a lot of focus on double bass right now because it's a skill that's very hard to develop. And there's lots of different technical approaches, lots of different practice approaches. But it's interesting. Not many people are publicly saying what you're saying. Like, listen, don't worry about the exercises as much. Go play. Go create, go challenge yourself, push yourself that extra bar each time and create something beautiful, and your performance will increase.
Yeah, double bass or not. I mean, that goes for anything. I don't know. Double bass for me, it's like I grew up, there were no double bass players really when I was, I grew up, I started playing drums when I was 5. I was born in 72. I was playing with my brother and my cousin out in public by the time I was 7 years old, 6, 8, somewhere in there. I did my first club gig at 9, playing with people. Was in my first original band in 8th grade. So I never really knew other people's way, and being growing up in South Carolina too, I didn't know other people's way of doing anything because very small hometown. If I wanted to see any bands by the time that I was into, going to shows, I had to drive to Charlotte or I had to go to Atlanta, so we didn't get a lot. So I kind of did all of it blind. So that's one thing that I think that a lot of, the newer generation has an advantage of is being able to go on YouTube and see all of this stuff, right? Because visual part of learning is very important as well. That was another thing I was going to bring up is become friends with other drummers as much as you can and get together and play with other drummers. Number one, that's fun as hell. But then you also visually, you start picking up a lot of things, and that goes for any musician. You play with enough guitar players, the guitar players, they all kind of do the same thing given the circumstance. Say they're going to go into a bridge to a chorus and you guys are just jamming for the first time. I can watch a guitar player's feet and know exactly where he's going to go because they all do the same thing. It's, that's just one of those things that if you're watching and you're paying attention, there's a bridge change coming. Or this looks like a chorus, because that's a different thing than a bridge thing sometimes. And you have to know every player's got their own little specific way of doing it, so you kind of have to know the player too. But, that kind of stuff, that's what makes good musicians great musicians, And I'm all about, the technique and all of that too. My technique's horrible. I mean, when you actually look at it, but if I don't do that, it doesn't sound the way I want it to sound. Right? I mean, just as an example, all right, fingers, right? But once you put the wrist and arm in there, see what I mean? There's a big difference in attitude.
Yeah.
Forget sound. I mean, obviously there's a big sound difference, but there's a big difference in attitude. Right? So, yes, doing it this way, all armed and very, choked down is not efficient. And it is stressful on the body to do. But, again, there's that line of knowing your body, right? And always push into 9.5, right? It's like a decibel meter, where you're looking at 0 dB as being flat. And it's you want to get as close to 0 dB as possible without going over that into the yellow and into the red that stresses your body, right?
On that note, Rob, I'm just curious, have you, pardon me.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, at that note, where you're always kind of pushing your threshold, but you're staying just a little bit back. Have you ever sustained any injuries or struggles from doing the types of drumming that you do?
No.
That's amazing.
And I'm a firm believer that people don't injure themselves playing drums. They most likely injure themselves moving drums.
Yes.
So, and let me explain. There was a period there where all I was doing was clinics, and I had a drum kit set up here, and it never moved anywhere, never did anything. I wasn't really playing a lot out with bands, and if I did, there was usually a kit provided. Okay, whatever. So I start playing with my band, get Serpents Rise together, and we have a gig locally. Very first thing I do is the damn double tom stand. I fold up the tripod and fold all my fingers up in the damn tripod.
The worst.
I mean, just, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, then I had to crack my knuckles for 16 weeks to start feeling normal again. Another time I was doing a festival in Seville, Spain, and I was going up on stage, and for some reason, I don't know if somebody used the snare drum stand and just put it back and put the drum on it, but it was like, it definitely wasn't in the position that I left it in. It was like high, and I was like, oh shit, let me move the snare before I start playing. And it was an awkward angle. I couldn't get to it, so I had to use my left hand, and it was tight. And I was like, man, this thing is like, need a wrench or something. I thought about grabbing my drumsticks, but I was like, let me and I felt something right in between here go. And it didn't hurt. It was like, that was weird. Did the gig, get on the train, go back to Madrid. By the time I got off the train in Madrid, my thumb was completely pins and needles. Like it was asleep, like you've been sitting on it, right? And then for like the next 2 weeks of pain in my neck, holy crap. That was something I would not wish on my worst enemy. But anyway, that was in 2011. My thumb is still numb. I mean, it's come back mostly except for like right under the fingernail, and the fingertip is still pins and needles. And I don't even feel it now. But did I do that injury? Did I do that playing drums, or did I do that doing something else? And I think a lot of times people will blame the drums on personal injury. Now, I will say that, like, if you're playing a standard 5-piece drum kit set up like the catalog, you're going to give yourself back problems, because that automatically puts everything over to the right. Your floor tom, your spine is doing this. So I tell people, if you play it like it's a double bass kit, put the kick off to the side, put the 10 and 12 in the middle, right? Because that way you can play your floor tom like that, and you're not bending your spine to get to it, right? So that's just a common sense thing, because nobody wants to be playing with their spine crooked. But I see a lot of drummers do it, you know?
Yeah. Many definitely position their
stuff.
drum set. The bass drum is the center of the drum set for many people. They place the bass drum down, the single bass drum, and they turn towards it. So that's definitely a huge problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that, I think if you get past that, then, like, you'll never have issues. Like, there's a reason, like, a lot of double bass drummers, like, those guys don't have back problems, right? It's weird, because out of all the, like, double bass guys, I know everybody's like, no, my back's great. You know, my back. I had a chiropractor tell me that he'd never seen somebody that had vertebrae that felt as fused as mine did in my lower back. He goes, dude, I bet I could break a bat over your back.
Yeah.
The chiropractor said to me, you know, he goes, he couldn't get it to move or do anything. And it's like, I never had any back issues, and I don't have any back, knock on wood. I don't have any back pains or any kind of like physical anything from playing drums at all. In fact, it's weird, because every time I have injured myself, I screwed my knee up one time really bad playing with Nader Sadet, because we were playing in an area that was kind of like San Francisco. There was a lot of walking up and down hills and stuff. And I don't know what I did, but the pressure in my knee, it was unbearable. I couldn't walk anywhere hardly for like a day, because we were there for a few days rehearsing and whatnot. Didn't bother me playing drums. I could play drums fine. The moment I put pressure on it, though, and get up, different story. So it's kind of weird how, like, anytime, like, I've been having I overextended my shoulder recently, trying to grab something from falling, like, too far out of reach, you know. Overextended bad. It's been bad for 6 months. Doesn't hurt when I play. I don't feel anything like jamming at all. So it's kind of weird. I don't know whether it's just I've played so many drums, so many notes over my lifetime that you know what I mean. But like, yeah, the whole physical thing, like even as far as like my breathing and like getting out of breath, like we'll do a full band practice. I'll barely even sweat in here. You know, it's like I mean, obviously you do because it's just high cardio, obviously, but um, you know, my guitar players sometimes sweat more than I do in here doing this stuff. And I don't know. It's just maybe it's just training, maybe it's genetics. Like I said, I never really had to try to do any of this, so I can't even really tell you. You know, it's one of those mysteries in life.
It's incredible.
I don't know.
There's something, you know, it's so as a biomechanics specialist, I do work with a lot of people with back problems and a lot of drummers who have back problems I do talk to. And whenever I talk to them, I always encourage them to watch people like you and other proficient double bass players, even if they don't play double bass, because as you're saying, like you didn't really have to technically work on a lot of the stuff. You just put the time in with music, which is great. However, the physics of it, you had to set things up in a way efficiently so your body can do it. And you need to sit in the drum throne in a certain way, like you showed in that Drumeo video. You have to be balanced. If you're not balanced, 100% more weight's going through your feet. That slows things down. Your pedals are off to the side. All of those little things, you just need to get out of the way. And so that's why I love showing like even a jazz guy with a bad back, your drum set. And I say, listen, you don't need to do this, but have a look at what he's doing because he's not on the edge of the throne. He has a stable throne and all that lets him do all that stuff. So I think that's an incredible, it is incredible. Like most double bass players have better backs than non-double bass players just because they had to figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen my book or have it at all, but there's a section in the book that's about core building, right? And just having your arms down to the side on your drum throne and being able to pick your feet up off the ground like 3 inches, 3 inches, without pulling them under and without leaning back, you know? Like you want to stay upright with your spine kind of straight up and down. And man, you could just feel, you know, everything in the core like fighting for dear life to like keep you in position, you know? And I've had guys ask like, what do you do for warm up? Like I'll do that for like 2 minutes. Because I sweat more doing that for 2 minutes than I do in an hour set. Seriously, it's like planking, you know what I mean? So it's kind of the same vibe. And then I'll find stairs, skip 2 going up, and hit everyone coming down.
Perfect.
And I'll do that again until I'm sweating, you know? And that's usually how I warm up. Because I don't just come up cold. You know, I'm smart enough to know. And again, that goes back to knowing your body.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, even warming up, even moving the drums into a club that day, setting them up, you know, walking around the club all day, that's more activity than you have normally. So that's kind of your warm-up, really, if you think about it that way as well. And I think just having a pair of drumsticks in your hands, you know, that way your mind is like, oh, I'm ready to go at any point. If a drum kit just showed up right here, I can play, you know? Like, just that kind of mindset, I guess, too. Because I've always kind of thought about it that way, you know? Like, just being prepared at any moment to rock.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You know? I don't know. It's a different thing. And, you know, another thing that we have to consider, right? I didn't grow up with drummers playing 16th notes at 260, right? That didn't exist. So for that snowball thing that we were talking about, right? That was easy to accomplish because the fastest thing at the time was like Fight Fire with Fire.
Right.
Or Skeletons in the Closet, or Angel of Death, or you know, Haunting the Chapel's got that cool like the whole song, you know, it was cool. But there weren't, you know what I mean? So my speed grew as the speed in the actual genre grew. You know what I mean? And I remember being at More Sound recording In Cold Blood in Tampa, and every drummer in town, man, it leaked. I don't even know how the word got out so fast because there weren't cell phones, you know what I mean? But every drummer in town, within 15 minutes of us starting to record that shit, every drummer in town was there. You know, you know what I mean? It was the funniest thing I'd ever heard. I was in there recording. I was looking up. I was like, "Oh wow, there's Steve." Oh man, Pete showed up. Oh, that's cool. Oh fuck, Lee's here. Like it was like every damn drummer in town. Oh DT, what's going on? Cool. It's like we didn't have. There weren't the bar wasn't so high for all of us starting out. You know what I mean? Like, so the physical thing grew as we grew, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Very
But
organic.
nowadays, I feel bad for like just a novice drummer that's like 12, 13 or whatever into Nile or into Hate Eternal being like and wanting to play that stuff. So I can see the urgency and all of the technique and how do you do it faster and now I'm playing double strokes and all this makes it very easy and you know what I mean. And so I understand the need for it, but I think a lot of, like we were talking about earlier, just because they didn't go through the motions of all that other stuff, developing your personality on the kit and your own personality on the kit by playing your own music and not really caring about how fast other people were. And like we didn't like nobody I didn't never even know the tempo of Hate Eternal songs until people started telling me. Man, that the King of Kings at 250, 248, 250. I was like, cool. Is it a good song? You like it? I mean, I mean, cool. I guess that's cool. I don't care. Does it have impact and does it make you want to throw furniture? I mean, that's, you know what I mean? Like that's the vibe I'm trying to go for with playing. I don't really care how fast it is. I just want it to like feel some way or another.
Absolutely. Derek,
and maybe that led to my physicality being so proficient, right? I guess. I don't know.
Honestly, it's like activity dependent, a forced fitness, right? Like you have to get in shape by doing the thing that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or say, for example, you get a gig and like you have to learn like it's something that you really want to do, but you only have like 2 weeks, right? And like the material, but you don't know it. So you force yourself, you're thrown into it. Like you just say yes, all right, yeah, I'll do it, and then you got the the what you call it, you turn over the sand hourglass. It's like this time's ticking. Let's get to it. And that's kind of I think if you do that and if you're not looking for all of those shortcuts, then you'll end up being overall more rounded, as a player as well. I don't know how to say that because there's been moments in time like I was saying earlier about playing and my body and my mind telling me, dude, you're not going to make it through this. You need to change. So like I would change something. Of course, I would lighten up, but I would look for a way automatically that I could lighten up and not have my sound change. Right? So what did that require? Well, maybe it required lightening up but tightening down on my sticks a little to get more of that staccato sound. So I would start balancing out with my ear how I could play lighter but keep the note sounding the same, right? So that's how I developed, the whole technique thing. It was always through my ear. It was never through my eyes or through my actual limbs. Like my ears are always the ones telling me, hey, dude, your sound is changing because you're lightening up. You're losing tempo because you're playing too hard. My ears are the ones, the thing that is doing that all the time, right? Which I think is a very different avenue than a lot of other players are coming from because it's so much about the technique nowadays that it doesn't matter how it sounds as long as the technique is good, which I don't believe is the right approach to take from like an onlooker's point of view.
Right.
Because I've been to, like, think about this. I've been to shows, right, where I've been on front row, and because I wanted to see some, a drummer from the front, and I would walk around to the front, and I would sit, dead center, and all I hear is cymbals, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I know I'm beyond the line of PA because I'm at front row, because typically PA is that way, and if I wanted to actually hear the drums, I would go to the soundboard, right? But I want to feel the drums. I want to hear the drummer. So I'm going to go here where I know I'm out of the line of the PA. It would seem to me that it would cross not just the drummer's mind, but everybody else in the band, that the people that are at the front row are the people that are there to, they want to see you the most, right? They can't hear you because they're out of sight of the PA. A lot of bands now are doing the guitar plug-in thing, the Axe Effects and the Kempers and all this stuff, and they're just hearing their monitors back. So that means there's nothing coming off stage. Just saw Fear Factory recently, standing off side of the stage. It's nothing. All you hear is drums, raw drums. Nothing. That's not very metal. I'm sitting here having a conversation at 80 dB over Fear Factory. You know what I mean? It's just not very rock and roll.
No,
so the same
good.
thing about being on front row. So if you can't project your sound to the people that are there to see you most, then why are you there? It's a question I ask all the time. Like, why are you? Oh, you're there for you. Well, that's why bands don't have a fan base anymore. You know, because you need to play for the people who are there. You know. And if you don't have a good sound, and if you don't have a good tone, and you don't have good touch, and you can't project yourself to those people that are 6 feet away, then why are you there, right?
The triggering has definitely become a lot more popular thing, like heel-toe techniques and finger techniques. Like, it is definitely at the forefront of many of these young people's mind because it's the fastest way to get the notes out, but not necessarily the sounds.
Right. And even that, I mean, again, a lot of guys are doing in-ears now, and like even the trigger's not on stage a lot of times now. So all you hear literally is cymbals.
Yeah.
You know, and like, again, it's like you would think that more bands would spend more time thinking about how do we sound to the people that are there, and how do they don't use their own experience standing in front row maybe and listening to a band and seeing like, wow, they're not balanced at all. Like, that guitar player is way louder than this guy. I can't hear the drummer at all. The bass player is like non-existent. Like, you know what I mean? Or, you know, whatever it happens to be. It's like, I just find it that like people are so fascinated with this whole technique thing that they're forgetting like 90% of everything else, you know? It's like, I don't know, maybe, and I guess that goes back to music just meaning something different to people nowadays than it did back when I grew up, you know? Because music was everything, man. I mean, it's all we had was music and the outdoors, right? I mean, it's a different thing now. And, you know, and I hear this argument all the time about the internet and Spotify. I keep seeing this stuff going around about how the internet killed, you know, the music industry. And I'm thinking to myself, nah, man, because MTV stopped playing music videos in the early 90s and the internet didn't exist. People lost their connection way earlier than the internet, man. Something happened, you know? Something happened to music that made people not care. It wasn't the internet, because the internet didn't exist. And if MTV's ratings were so high playing music videos, they never would have stopped playing them, right? So what happened, you know? Why did music become worthless all of a sudden? And it has a lot to do with what we're talking about, I feel.
I think so.
Because once people figured out that's not Ace Frehley that played on that record, Peter Criss didn't play that stuff, Madonna doesn't write her own music, that's not them singing that. Oh, man, I thought he was a great guitar player. I saw him live. He sucked. You know, once music lost its honesty, people disconnected from it, man. We spend our whole lives as human beings looking for trust and honesty, and when our music has neither one of those things, if I can't trust that I can go buy a record nowadays and actually hear the drummer, and we wonder why it's worthless. It has nothing to do with the internet or Spotify or any of that. Musicians made music worthless. I don't know. And MTV knew this because they replaced it with something that they had it right in the title. Reality television. People were on that for a decade until they figured out that's not real. And then they moved on. Oh, Duck Dynasty's not a real family. That's not even a company. They don't even have beards. Like, you know, once people figured all of this stuff out, then they moved on to what? What did they move on to, Brandon?
Internet? More AI?
Podcast.
Oh, of course. Yes. I'm so sorry.
Because they're getting an honest they're getting an honest connection.
Absolutely.
We're having an honest conversation right now. You're not going to find it more honest than this, right?
No, very
and this
genuine.
is why people gravitated. Man, when I did that Anthrax tour filling in for Charlie, every single person with earbuds, I asked, hey, man, what you listening to? And it was like 1 out of 100 people or even less. 1 out of 150 people that I asked that are actually listening to music. Everybody else is listening to podcasts because they have that connection, right? You know, and that's all I'm trying to say as far as the music. Like, when you forget about that connection to people, it's never going to have value. And we sit here and scratch our head and wonder why the guy at Spotify doesn't pay musicians more, because your music isn't worth any more than that. His billions comes from that little box there where it says I agree. That's where his billions came from. Or millions, rather.
Yeah.
It didn't come from your worthless music. I mean, you could pay more for bread at Walmart, but you're not gonna. So I mean, the music is worth what you ask, and nobody forced people to put their music on Spotify. So, is what it is. Sorry about that rant, by the way.
No, it's a very, very good one. I completely agree. Derek, I got one last kind of question I want to ask you, and it's a bit of a shift in gears, but I'm more just curious for you, with all the stuff that you do, and with respect as you're getting a little bit older, I'm wondering, health, nutrition, fitness-wise, what kind of things have you incorporated into your general life, or have you, to take care of yourself so you can be healthy and keep doing what you do?
Okay, well, remember when I said that I prefer to spend time on the bigger screen than the smaller screen? I do that a lot. So, just yesterday, my wife and I are in the ocean. You probably know about my snake stuff, business and all of that, but we do a lot of hiking, that kind of thing. So that's naturally something that I do a lot of walking, a lot of swimming, just in general, all-purpose kind of stuff. Playing the kit as much as I can. I'm thankful that I have a local band here in town, 2 local bands actually, so I can play a few nights a week and stay in shape. And honestly, I feel like I'm playing better than ever. As far as like any of that is concerned, nutrition-wise, something that when I met my wife, she didn't eat anything that didn't come from the ocean. And so it kind of forced me at home to not eat meat at all. And just recently, within the last 5 or 10 years, I started eating a lot of salads, which I would have never done ever in my life. Especially when we first met, nothing green crossed these lips except for other plants. But so yeah, I mean, nutrition changed a lot. So not just, I eat meat. I had 2 pork chops before I came here today that I had left over in my refrigerator here at the shop. I eat protein during the day here as much as I can, just plain protein with nothing else, no cheese, no bread, no chips, no anything. And then I'll go home at night and have a salad. And that's kind of been the last 8, 9, 10 years of kind of my daily routine. It's just small amount of protein during the day, big salad at night, Seems to be working because I feel great. A lot of guys my age are complaining and whatnot, I feel, honestly, I feel pretty good, But again, breathing, I think a lot of people, this is probably something that doesn't get brought up enough. Most people, I'd say 97% of people walking the earth are shallow breathers, let's just say, meaning not filling your full capacity of lung as much as you should, right? So deep breathing is something that I've kind of taught myself to do all the time naturally. It's one of those things in yoga and Hinduism and Buddhism and all of this stuff, deep breathing thing, but I've kind of made it just an internal thing that happens with me all the time. And it started here on the kit because one of the things that I tried to do, I knew that if I didn't have enough oxygen in my blood, that I wasn't going to be able to do what I was doing. So I started this whole thing where, depending on the tempo, I was in 8 bars, out 8 bars, in 8 bars, out 8 bars, in 8 bars, or if it was really fast, 4 bars, or if it was really slow, 16, 16, or sorry, really fast, 16, and if it's really slow, 4 and 4. So I got into the habit of that to where it's just like a natural thing, because I believe that oxygen is key to brain health. It's key to muscle strength and muscle health. I just believe that's an important thing, and a lot of people don't breathe deep enough, often enough,
I completely agree. Derek, I actually got one more thing that I meant to ask you, and I'm really excited about asking, because it's shifting gears, and I don't mean to do that, but something I've been nerding out about is, I remember back in your form days, you were doing a lot of that multi-pedal orchestration stuff. Like it wasn't just blast beats, but at that time you were doing more of the independent stuff and really working on musical phrasing, but layering polyrhythms and polymeters on top of one another. I'm just curious, do you still experiment with that stuff? Do you still play with it?
Yeah. I mean, I have on my kit now. I got the Ribbon Crasher, hat, kick. Oh, sorry. That's the other hi-hat, but it's closed. Hang on. That's that one. And then this is another Ribbon Crasher.
Oh, on the right foot.
2 ribbons. Yeah, 2 ribbons, 2 hats, 2 kicks right now.
That's amazing.
So I'm one of those people that I kind of firmly agree that like your body can do a lot of stuff already if you just change sound sources, right? So like even having something like that on your right foot and then moving to your left foot. So let's just say something like, let me close these for a minute just to give you an example. What would I play? Right. So if you just change that to right. So you're playing the same thing, you just move the sound source. Right? Right? Kind of cool. It's just the same thing as this. Right? Just put the left foot in, it's like somewhere naturally. Ah. That kind of stuff. Just, moving sound sources, really. I try not to burden myself with trying to do like this against that. It's like, again, I'll take something my body can already naturally do and just figure out how to work around from that, It just seems to be more fun and less work, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
You just figure it out naturally, and then go from there. I'm a firm believer that everybody has something locked inside of them that they could do that would make you sound like Marco or Thomas Lang or Virgil or any of these other guys. It's just a matter of actually putting the sound source there and kind of seeing what would happen. I think it would be fun.
Completely agree. Completely agree. Derek, I have to just quickly say, thank you so much for all your wisdom today. Honestly, I first of all I was expecting much more of like, here's my practice regimen and all the things, and I'm so happy to hear that it was just performance music feel based. And so I think that wisdom is going to be really good for people to hear.
Yeah, man. People look for the shortcuts. I think that's the shortcut because that teaches you like so much. A year playing in an original band, man, you'll learn so much more than you will in a bedroom in that same time. Like, and not just about drums. Again, like you learn about all types of stuff. So it's do that. Find some guys. I know it's hard to find people to play with, but even if you have to drive a little bit, get into the bigger screen a little bit more and get out there and communicate with people through music in a real time space. I think it makes a difference, and it's going to save the music industry. To be honest, if we don't do it, then we're really going to be up crap creek. You know what I mean? So
I completely agree. Derek, before we wrap up, and I completely agree, do you have anything exciting coming out? Do you have any music or any material that you're excited to present?
Well, always. I mean, there's a new Serpent's Rise out right now. I have 2 Isotropy releases. There's the Doomzilla that I did with Jim Ross. The Band Horror is going to be coming out finally. I'm probably on like 50 songs, 60 songs on that Band Horror release. There's like over 150 songs, I think, on it.
Amazing.
And there's like 100 and something musicians, so it's going to be one of the greatest death metal releases of all time. It's pretty insane. So that'll be coming out. Isotropy's recording a new one. Probably we're going to start on that maybe next month. All of this stuff is available through the streaming apps. You can also go to my website, DerekRoddyLive.com, and pick up any of this stuff. Um, I'm going to be adding more and more music up to my personal site, DerekRoddyLive.com, and you can get stuff directly from there if you're interested in that. I've got all that old deboning method stuff and the great die ends, isotropy, all of the surface rise, that deboning method stuff. If I didn't mention that, I've got that up there. There's a bunch of stuff up there. So if you're looking to get some new music, people probably don't realize I've recorded more music in the last 10 years than I have in the previous 25. So there's a lot of stuff out there that I'm on for sure, and I'm getting more and more of it up on my website every week. So definitely check it out.
Amazing, Derek. I'm going to definitely check out the deboning method because seeing both you and Rob will be a lot of fun together. But thank you for your time today, man. This was a blast.
No worries. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Derek, thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.